Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mahdi Tijani back with you again, aka the Red Mahdi, aka the Masculine Reviver. And we have another video today that I'm going to react to, sent in by one of my followers. It's called The Real Reason for Marriage by Professor Jordan Peterson. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to react live with it and give some commentary on the video.
It's actually why people get married, just so you know. Because this is built into marital vows. I'm not leaving, ever, no matter what. It's like, okay, well, that definitely puts a boundary around our arguments, right? Because I can't say every time you manifest one of your flaws, which you're likely to do just as often as me, well, enough of this. It's like, that's horrible, man. If your whole life is, well, every time you get out of line, I'm out of here. It's like, how the hell are you? First of all, you're not going to admit to ever doing anything wrong. Second, you're going to be on you're like a scared cat the entire relationship because.
Oh my days. Whew. This is extremely relatable for me. My first marriage, I got married when I was 16. That marriage lasted 11 or 12 years. And towards the end of the marriage, my wife initiated the divorce. The reasons are not important right now. But I remember my wife wanted out of the marriage. And I would say to her, this is not about our happiness anymore. And she'd say to me, it's done. I'm finished. I'm not happy with you. I don't love you. I want to find my happiness elsewhere. And I said to her, this is not about happiness. We've got kids, 4 children together. You prioritizing your happiness over the children's happiness, that's not cool. Because kids raised in a broken home, in single mother homes, the stats are unequivocally clear on this. Children raised in single mother homes, 61% of them, 61% of all youth, I don't know if I can say the word on YouTube, it might get censored, of children who top themselves. You understand what I mean? 61% of them come from single mother homes. 73% of all high school dropouts are the kids from single mother homes. 91% of all homeless and runaway children are from single mother homes. You can find these stats at the Center for Disease Control. It's there for everyone to see. It's clear cut. Children raised in single mother homes are at a huge disadvantage. Children raised in broken homes, period, are at a huge disadvantage. And I never forget my eldest son. He was distraught for a long time. I remember one time we were in the car together, and me and his mum were, I knew at that point it was done. I knew it was finished, but I hadn't broken it to the children at that point yet. And he just started breaking down must have been 11 years old, and he just started crying. And he said, Baba, I really make dua that you and Mummy get back together. And even thinking about that, it makes me emotional. Thinking about how he broke down like that. Seeing the pain that those kids went through, especially my eldest son, because he was the oldest he could remember, and seeing that pain in his face, it brings back a lot of emotions.
Well, who knows? It could just come to an end at any moment. It's like, people say, well, if the possibility of divorce is open, it makes you free. It's like, yeah, that's what you want. You want to be free, eh? Really? Really? So you can't predict anything. That's what you're after. It's a vow. And it says, look, I know that you're trouble. Me too. So we won't leave, no matter what happens. Well, that's a hell of a vow, but that's why it's a vow, right? That's why you take it in front of a bunch of people. That's why it's supposed to be a sacred act. It's like, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Everything is mutable and changeable at any moment. Well, go ahead. You live your life like that and see what you're like when you're 50. Jesus, it's dismal. 2 or 3 divorces, your family's fragmented, you've got no continuity of narrative. It's not good for the kids, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Before he gets into that point about the kids, most divorces are initiated by women. 70 to up to 90% of divorces in some states in America are initiated by women. Most divorces are not initiated because of some type of heinous crime that the husband committed towards his wife. be it domestic violence, be it emotional abuse or torture or whatever the case may be. But that's the common narrative that is peddled amongst divorcee women. Why? Well, they're protecting their integrity. They need to keep up a solid reputation for themselves. They can't be seen as a woman who left the marriage simply because she became disenchanted. But the truth is, that is the majority reason why women leave marriages is because they simply become disenchanted. We were like two ships passing in the night. I'm citing actual most commonly cited reasons why women leave divorces. We were like two ships passing in the night. We were no longer best friends anymore. All of that feeling stuff. Most women don't experience some type of extreme domestic violence or something of the sort. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Most men are average guys. They're average guys. It's not great, but it's not bad either. Just as the lady, most women are average women. She's not great, but she's not terrible either. We're average.
And so it's a form of voluntary enslavement, I suppose, but it's also equivalent to the adoption of a responsibility. And there's more to it than that. If you can't run away, then you can solve your problems. Because it might be, okay, well, I'm stuck with you. So how about we fix things? Because the alternative is we're going to be in a boxing match for the next 40 years. That's the alternative. So, and you think you're going to fix problems without something like that hanging over your head? There isn't a chance. You'll just avoid them because that's what people do. It's really hard to solve problems, especially in a relationship. We're having a fight and I find out that it's, because you were abused by your uncle when you were 5 or some goddamn thing. It's like, it's very frequent that sort of thing happens. There's your partner's, manifesting some weird anomalous behavior. You just can't make heads or tails of it. It doesn't seem related to what you're doing at all. They don't want to talk about it. And so as soon as you bring it up, they get mad. And then you bring it up again, they even get madder and they tell you that they're not going to talk about that or they're going to leave. And so maybe you're really, really persistent because you're kind of a son of a bitch, and then they break down and cry, and then they have this horrible memory that comes flooding forward that's completely, you don't know what to do with it, and then you have to sort it out. So you think you're going to do that unless there's a good reason? You have to know, we better sort this out, or we're going to be carrying it around for the next 40 years. That maybe is enough motivation so you'll actually try hard to solve a problem.
See, the thing here is that I am completely in agreement with Dr. Jordan Peterson on this. The problem is, if you are not married to someone who has the same mentality, that's the problem. And this is why I am so passionate about men vetting women with the correct criteria. The correct criteria. It is so important. I am a firm believer that successful marriages are entirely predictable. You can predict the success or failure of a marriage with a high degree of predictability if but you know what to look for. And go back and have a look at my video on red flags. I might even put it up here in the top right hand corner. Those are just a few indications of what you need to look out for when it comes to vetting your woman. And the truth is, most of us are just blissfully, ignorantly unaware of how to vet women. Myself as well, once upon a time. No longer am I, but once upon a time I was.
A lot easier to say, well, sorry, we're not going there. But then, good, you'll have it every day, every goddamn day for the rest of your life. See, there's some additional problems with divorce that people don't really grasp when they're young. Like the idea that you can be divorced once you have children, that's kind of a stupid idea because you can't. You can find a limited substitute for your initial freedom. But if you have kids and you try to get divorced, the probability that that's going to demolish your life is very, very high. First of all, it's incredibly expensive. So one or both of you is going to come out of that poor. And your market value has declined. Let's say you're the woman who takes the kids. Your market value has declined radically.
It's quite interesting. Jordan Peterson kind of spits some red pill truths just in a more politically correct type of way. He's an academic, he's an educated man, I guess, highly educated, I should say, for that matter. But that point he mentioned there is that if you think that you can get a divorce once you have children, you are sorely mistaken. You're tied to that woman, and she's tied to you for the rest of your lives, at least until the kids grow up. But then even after that, when the kids have issues, or one of them's going through a divorce themselves perhaps, or something's happened, you're intricately tied to that person for the rest of your life. You got to deal with their drama for the rest of your life.
To be poorer. The man, he's just as screwed because he is now an indentured servant and there's no escape from it. So it's not so bad if you can negotiate a peaceful separation, and some people can, but lots of times if you have a terrible relationship, it's not like negotiating a peaceful separation is all that easy. But if you're at each other's throats, good luck to you. I think it's roughly equivalent to having non-fatal cancer. It is not pleasant. It's a 10-year process, 15-year process. It'll cost you $250,000, and it'll tear a big chunk out of your life. And also, it will really disrupt your relationship with your kids. And, you bring kids into a step-parent family, they do not do as well. Step-parents are not as good parents as biological parents, and the data on that is clear. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, because there are terrible biological parents, and there are wonderful step-parents. But if you look in aggregate, it's not that easy to care for children. You need everything you can binding you to them. And if they're someone else's children, mostly they get in the way of the person that you love.
That's an interesting point. I didn't know that about the stats of raising stepchildren, but it makes perfect sense. I'm a stepfather myself. My wife is a widow. She has 3 children from her previous marriage before her husband died. And I'd like to consider myself a good step-parent. But ultimately, blood is thicker than water. This cannot be denied. That level of concern, care, and so on, it cannot be denied that blood is thicker than water. I hold my own biological children, for example, to a higher degree of accountability than I do with my stepchildren, and I noticed that. And I needed to check myself on that, because I might be a bit more lenient with my stepkids, allow things to slide that I wouldn't typically allow to slide with my own children. Why? Because my own kids are a mirror reflection of myself. They are a mirror reflection of myself, whereas my stepkids, the truth of the matter is, if something goes wrong, I can still distance myself somewhat by saying, well, we're not biologically tied. And I noticed that, and I had to check myself, and I said to myself, Mahdi, if you're going to raise them like your own, you have to hold them to the same level of accountability as your own. Because that's fair. That's love. That is love. But the point that I'm making to you is that I still went through that feeling, that experience.
Right? Well, let's say you have a child, I'll be right out. Let's say you have a child and I want to go out with you. Every second you spend with that child is the second you don't spend with me. And there's going to be a price for that. I'm not going to be happy about that. And if I have a child, you're going to feel exactly the same way. You might say, well, no, I love children. It's like, yeah, sure.
Marriage is one of those discussions, particularly in the Muslim community, that we need to be speaking about more of. And especially the vetting process. Not just, brother, so long as she prays 5 times a day, sister, so long as he prays 5 times a day, it's all good. Nah. We need to look into family history. What was his relationship like with his father? What was her relationship like with her mother? Did her mother go through multiple men? Because that's the example now she's now seen. She's probably going to enact the same thing herself. Lost my memory. Watch the video that I made on red flags. I tagged it earlier. I put it in the screen. I might put it again now if I can here. Watch that video again. We need to get better at the premarital vetting stage. This is crucial. And I'm grateful for my experiences, because I have a lot of kids that I will be taking my experience forward to, helping them in vetting for the correct husband, correct wife, from a standpoint of compatibility over the long run, making a predictable marriage that can last. And as I say, I believe marriages are predictable. They can be predicted whether they will last or not based upon the characters involved and their histories. So on that note, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Did I get it right? Have I missed something? What's your thoughts? And also, please hit that like button. Click it right now, and then click next to it the red subscribe button. It will really help with the algorithm. Share this with a brother who needs to see this. Share this with a sister who needs to see this. Marriage is something that is massively underrated, the importance of maintaining the nuclear home. And check in the link in the subscription if you want to join us on Patreon. All of my banned content is on Patreon. Banned, I've had 4 TikTok accounts taken down. 4 TikTok accounts taken down. All of my banned content is on Patreon, Instagram links, and so on and so forth. And on that note, Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.